Today, I bring you news that the Big 12 may not have to stick to simply group of 5 teams when thinking about further expansion. Yes, they could be raiding the Pac-12, at least according to a new CBS Sports report. Welcome into the channel. I am John Kurtz. If you have not subscribed, please do click subscribe. I talk college football every day on this channel. Right now, that means conference realignment every day on this channel. I aim to give the Big 12 a voice. Well, Dennis Dodd did a pretty big breakdown of generally conference realignment at the group of 5 level, but that included one very important paragraph to Big 12 fans that will be of big time interest and reiterates something that I have said in previous live chats in talking with you guys about the position that the Big 12 is in now that it has gotten to the point where it has 12 teams. So here it is. Here is what Dennis Dodd said that really captured my attention. Big 12 executives are also watching closely as the Pac-12 negotiates a new TV deal in 2024 when its current agreement with Fox and ESPN expires. If the Pac-12 media rights revenue approximates that of the Big 12 at that time, there is a feeling within the Big 12 that some Pac-12 schools might be interested in joining. That is juicy. That is a juicy paragraph. Now, there are some ifs there, right? This is if the Pac-12 contract looks similar to the Big 12 at that point, and I don't know if that means whatever the Big 12 estimates its new value to be, or if it's similar to what the Big 12 is right now, because the Pac-12 will be going to market first. So I don't know how you could know the value of the Big 12's next TV contract there. But basically, I take this to mean if the value is not much different, if the Pac-12 gets the same type of answer that the Big 12 reportedly got before Texas and Oklahoma decided to leave, which was, even with Texas and Oklahoma, we're not going to up this at all. You'll get the same deal that you got double-digit years ago, which obviously didn't make anybody happy. I take it to mean that. If the Pac-12 is going to be stagnant, then maybe things really start to splinter off. But I do love hearing this on a number of different levels. And a big part of this is not because I think this is gospel. It's not because I think Dennis Dodd put it out there and everything is going to fall in place. I just think it shows, one, the Big 12 is trying to operate from a position of strength. Two, the Big 12 is not desperate to go add group of 5 teams right now just for the sake of getting bigger at this point in time. And three, the most important thing here is it brings back into play what happens to the Pac-12's biggest brands. What happens to USC and Oregon? Because to me, the scenario that we're talking about here would be a trickle-down effect of the biggest brands in the Pac-12 getting poached. To me, this would all have to start with USC, Oregon, Washington, and then whoever else they're going to bring with them going off to the Big Ten. Because think about it. If USC looks at it and says, all right, our deal is going to stay about the same. We're going to continue making around $32 million per year. And you look over at the Big Ten where they're already up over 50, you're going to say, man, so for the next however long we're signing this deal, the next 7, 8, 9, 10 years, we're going to be making $20 million less than our counterparts in the Big Ten. That doesn't seem like a very good deal. That's the exact same position that Texas and Oklahoma found itself in and why they decided to bolt. So how do we know that USC doesn't decide to bolt if that's what George Kliavkoff is only able to negotiate for the Pac-12 at that point in time? And can anything change in the next 18 months significantly enough to get the Pac-12 above the current number that they have? I have my doubts. Yes, Ohio State went in and beat Oregon went in and beat Ohio State. But is that enough to really change the tenor? Even if they make the playoff this year, is that enough to really up the media value of the Pac-12? There are years of problems facing this league, and frankly, USC has been a big part of that itself, so they would have to turn inward. But they're still the top dog. They're still the biggest brand, and they still control everything there. I think the play here is wait and see if that happens. Wait and see if USC leaves. Then you can pick off some of the Pac-12 leftovers, so to speak, and strengthen yourself as a conference. Now, obviously, the most hotly rumored Pac-12 schools here would have to be the Arizona schools. That's been a rumor for a long time, going back even to the first round of conference realignment, that the Big 12 might be able to pick off Arizona and Arizona State. So I think I would start there. I know Colorado gets mentioned a lot. They were a previous Big 12 school, but Colorado at the time very much felt like it fit in culturally better with the Pac-12. I can't see them wanting to come back and in their minds, I'm sure, kind of slum it with the Big 12 schools once again. But maybe if it is their only option, and the Pac-12 has dissolved, that would be something that's in play as well. Utah is another one that gets thrown out there. And look, none of these schools that I've mentioned, I think, significantly amplify the Big 12's TV revenue or the Big 12's TV value. But it does just strengthen your conference both in numbers and perception because now you're adding Power 5 schools as opposed to Group of 5 schools here. Plus, if the end result of this is that the Pac-12 is just done and you outlasted the Pac-12, well, it's like the game Survivor, right? You just advanced and you got rid of somebody else. So all of this All of this to me would indicate that there's a possibility of a very nice scenario playing out, at least as far as the Big 12 is concerned. And this is exactly why I think the right move right now for the league is to consider future expansion, but not rush to go do it. Boise State, look, they're being courted right now by the AAC. It's not like the Pac-12 is courting Boise. Even if Boise were to jump to the AAC, supposedly they're at the top of the Big 12's future expansion list, they'd still be there and available. It would still be elevating themselves to jump from the AAC to the Big 12. I don't think you have to worry about them going anywhere or becoming out of your price range, so to speak, or anything like that. That option's going to be there. Right now, you've stopped the bleeding. You were bleeding profusely and had to do something quick, and that's why Bob Bowlesby acted as fast as he did. 2 weeks after the Pac-12 said no to expansion, the Big 12 has 4 new teams and schools in the league. You've stopped the bleeding. No need to go rush into surgery again right away. See what happens with the landscape. Operate from more of a position of power because you are stabilized to an extent right now. Do not rush to expand just for the sake of expanding. I like the strategy here. I like where things are at, and I like that the Big 12 is thinking this way and that people with some credibility are at least lending their voice to this idea that it could happen. And in the bigger picture, the abstract of all of this, or perhaps simply just to supplement the narrative we've been pushing here for a while, it goes back to all of these writers that have been just caping up for the Pac-12 automatically and saying, look, of course the Pac-12 is better than the new look Big 12. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. We've already discussed on the field how that could be very much a falsehood, but also even in terms of the stability of the conference. There are still whispers out there that the Pac-12 may be just as vulnerable, if not more vulnerable, than the Big 12 right now that the league has added the 4 teams here. So this is not over. This is not over by a long shot. The Big 12 has basically been a league with 9 lives at this point in time after surviving the last round of realignment, now surviving by adding 4 more teams. It would not be the most shocking thing in the world for me to see the scenario play out and happen. So stay tuned. All hope definitely not lost. All right? This is something that put a little pep in my step to see yesterday on CBSSports.com. Again, if you have not subscribed, please consider clicking subscribe. I talk college football every day on this channel. That means conference realignment every day on this channel. Right now, certainly, as I try to give the Big 12 a voice. You can follow me on Twitter at JLKurtz. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at John Kurtz Show. Would appreciate the follows there. Have fun, guys. Enjoy the college football weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.